Judge! Rules, the bag, and what happened at DLC Melbourne. I'm not here to comment on the intentions or the drama of anybody involved. I want to just talk about the actual ruling, the rules, and the interactions with the bag. This is coming from the perspective of a longtime Magic player who's used to using and abusing a lot of strange rules interactions and stack manipulations, using triggers and abilities and other complicated or counterintuitive rules to my advantage. For this today, I'm going to take a look at the rules across 3 documents: the Comprehensive Rules Guide, the Tournament Rules, and the Play Corrections documents, all listed on the official Lorcana website. I want to start off with the idea of the bag. What is it and how does it work? In short, the bag is a holding place for triggered abilities, which are represented by marbles. Ability marbles go into the bag and then are pulled out and resolved. The important things here are rules 873. The ability is added to the bag by the player who played the card. If multiple triggered abilities happen at the same time, they're all added to the bag simultaneously by the respective players. 874. The active player chooses and resolves any one of the triggered abilities and then it fully resolves. And 877, continue until there are no more triggers to resolve. For the sake of simplicity to the situation, we're going to ignore multiple triggered abilities from different players or additional marbles added to the bag while resolving existing marbles. Effectively, here, triggered ability marbles go into the bag and then the active player chooses and resolves them in any order they want to. So then, what happened? In DLC Melbourne, there was a judge call and overturning of gameplay for a situation involving triggered abilities. This was in the top 8 quarterfinal round where Jesse on Amethyst Emerald was playing Clement on Ruby Sapphire. During their game, there was a series of seemingly normal events. Jesse, with a Chernobog's followers and Magic Broom on the board, decides to quest and pop the followers for a card, then pauses for a moment, quests with the broom, and then pauses again. With a Maui Shark on the other side of the table that could freely challenge in and possibly get back in action from the discard, it would make no sense for the Broom to quest if he wasn't intending on using that ability to banish itself and draw by playing another character. There is a pause, likely deciding on what ink in order to play the goat. It looks like from his hand, he's got an option between a crab and an Elsa. After deciding on the ink, he immediately plays the Merlin goat, gains the lore from that goat entering, and then attempts to banish the broom to draw from the goat entering. At this point, Clement stops, and there is a judge call. As of right now, I'm not privy to what the actual ruling was or what the judge actually said. All I can do is comment on the resulting outcome based on the board state that was shown after returning to the stream. It would appear that whatever the official ruling was, the action was to rewind the game, put the broom back, and then rule that the broom's trigger was missed because the goat's trigger had fully resolved already. At this point, the magic broom was back on the table, exerted, and he was unable to draw from it. So let's see what the rules say about it and how the bag applies here. We can take a look at the series of events that played out. Merlin Goat is played, which causes 2 different enters play abilities to trigger: Goat's gain 1 lore ability and Broom's banish to draw ability. Both of these ability marbles then go into the bag, and Jesse should be free to resolve them in any order he would like. In this case, it appeared that he resolved the Goat's marble first, noting the gain in lore, and then went to resolve the Broom marble by banishing it to draw a card. Some have pointed out that the ability on Magic Broom is a May ability, unlike Goat, which must happen regardless of choice. But that doesn't affect placing the marble into the bag. The Broom's ability goes into the bag regardless of whether you choose to resolve it or not. The choice for whether or not to do the May ability happens upon resolution, where you can choose to banish and then draw or choose not to. At no point do you choose to put the marble into the bag, it just goes into the bag when it's triggered. So what rule was broken? It appears the rule being cited and attempted to be exploited is section 4.3 of the tournament rules section, specifically this line. When a player has multiple simultaneous actions to resolve, that player must announce the order of resolution before beginning to resolve the first one. The order can't change once the first action has begun. I personally do not believe that this was applied correctly, and I'm not alone in that. I've had discussions with several players, including a local judge who runs our larger events and has judged at a DLC himself, though not at Melbourne. Their interpretation is that this particular rule is old or outdated and, to their knowledge, has not been applied in any competitive setting in any way yet. They also stated that Ravensburger takes their time in updating any official documents, with the last update to the comprehensive rules coming in August of last year, 6 months ago. Or, in his words, but even if that's the case, it seems like this is an egregious reading of the rule. I believe that it's safer to infer the intention of this rule is to avoid changing the order of triggers once it's chosen. especially if one of those abilities may trigger another or there's a more advantageous way to stack them after resolving the first. It does not appear the intention was to interpret it as it was here, catching someone in a gotcha moment by resolving things in an order before explicitly stating that order. While not an official rules text, there is a Discord post made by Kyle Grabinski, the rules manager for Disney Lorcana, and he states that he's aware that the line is incorrect and should be updated. Though with rules as written versus rules as intended, it appears the written word won out. It appears the remedy applied was treating it as a missed trigger, either that it never entered the bag in the first place and the opponent gets to choose whether or not to add the trigger, or that the trigger was entered but then ruled that the May ability was declined. What makes this the most peculiar is that there was an identical situation that happened between these same players in this same match of a previous game. It was effectively the exact same situation, but with a white rose instead of a Merlin goat. Jesse performed the same sequencing. Quest with the broom, play the white rose, note the gain of lore, and then banish magic broom to draw from the white rose entering. As someone who's played a lot of Amethyst myself, this sequencing is incredibly common. Now, it does appear that there is an ever so brief moment where Jesse might have acknowledged or tapped or indicated the broom in some way during that encounter. It looks like he's about to pick it up before stopping to add his lore. We don't have audio of the players, so I'm unsure whether or not this was acknowledged or said, but at least that's probably the angle that Clement was going for, is that there was an indication first time and there was not in the second time. I'm not here to judge these players or interpret their intentions, but it seems pretty clear that while a specific letter of the rule was applied, it contradicts the goals and intentions of pretty much every other relevant rule. Whoever you want to personally blame for this failure, it is clear that it needs to be addressed by Ravensburger. This is not the first time a stupid rule being abused by a possibly bad faith player has cost someone a game. In fact, it has happened in Magic the Gathering many times at many large professional events, from Grand Prix to Pro Tours and everything in between. Most of the time when these things happen there, rules are then changed and updated to reflect the intent of the play and streamline common sense applications. This was not a complex or convoluted game action, just kind of a skeezy application of an unused sub-rule that, if actually enforced as written, would hit pretty much every active player in all of Lorcana. Whatever happens, I hope that we get clarification from Ravensburger. I love this game and have a huge love for weird or niche rule exploits, but that's not what this was. This was a clear abuse of a poorly constructed rules line for an unfair advantage by a player looking to game the system and gain an edge against an opponent outside of the standard operations of the game itself. There's no excuse for why that shouldn't have happened here, and I hope these issues are addressed in a timely manner. If you enjoyed that, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want more gameplay or breakdown videos, check out the playlist and recommendations here.